And we're back on the record for the beginning of disc number 5. The time is 3:37.
Mr. Mignogna, I'm going to show you what pre-marked Exhibit 9. And you can put that in the binder. That's the... Or keep it in front of you, up to you.
My name has an additional G in it, but
oh, I'm sorry.
People have missed it for a long, long time, so it doesn't matter at all.
My apologies.
No, no worries. I just wanted to let you know.
So, put together the timeline just to kind of show start to finish, or not start to finish, but start. You would agree with me that this firestorm kind of kicks off on January 16, 2019.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And then by January 2019 is when the GoFundMe announcement occurs.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, February 19 is when the GoFundMe announcement occurs.
If you say so. I don't remember dates like specifically, but
okay.
Yes.
And then along the way, you're losing convention invites. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there any other business besides invitations to cons that you lost that you can point to?
Well, I mean, there were at least 7 or 8 recurring roles at Funimation that I'd been playing for many, many years. I lost those, and any future recording sessions of those shows. I lost the recurring character that I was playing for Rooster Teeth. And I'm sure there are, other repercussions, ripples that I might even never know about.
And the Rooster Teeth termination, we don't know why that occurred. We just know it occurred, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the Funimation termination, we don't know why that occurred either.
Well, we can only assume based on the 3 stories that the 3 incidents that Tammy?
Yes, Tammy Denbo.
Yes, sir. That Tammy asked about.
Okay.
I don't understand why he has to do this in his microphone.
Are you familiar with...
You're on the records. Excuse me.
Sure. Are you familiar with something called rumor panels?
No. In what context, sir?
In context of panel discussions at cons, they're, I guess, called rumor panels.
No, sir. I did a panel many, many years ago at a convention about rumors about me because I wanted to dispel them. They were baseless and without substance, and I knew that people had questions, and I wanted to address them.
Is that the only rumor panel that you've ever done?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what con that was at?
No, not offhand. It was a long time ago.
And what was the purpose of the rumor panel?
As I said, I knew that there were rumors and gossip online, and I knew that fans had questions about it, and I wanted to dispel the rumors.
All right, I'll show you what we're going to mark as Exhibit 21. I'll represent to you that Exhibit 21 is a post on the internet I pulled off, or somebody pulled off with a date of 4/20/2010. It references a TekoshaCon rumor
Which is in
panel.
Pittsburgh. TekoshaCon is Pittsburgh.
All right, does that refresh your recollection that that the rumor panel you did was at TekoshaCon in Pittsburgh?
Yes, sir. I suppose, yes. I only did one, and I didn't remember the panel, the convention, and this says TekoshaCon, and which I know is a Pittsburgh convention, so I'm going to assume that's the one.
Right. Are you aware of any other voice actors that have ever done rumor panels?
I don't know. There hundreds of voice actors do hundreds of panels at hundreds of conventions. I don't know what their schedules are. I don't know what they do.
Okay, but you've never heard of anybody doing a rumor panel besides you?
I've never asked. I mean, I've never inquired. I don't know.
And so the rumor panel is designed for you to talk about rumors and address them. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, actually, if I may say so, it wasn't designed to be that type of panel. It was a normal Q&A session, and I ended up, I think maybe somebody even might have asked a question about something, and I answered it, and it kind of continued in a vein of, you've heard this, or you've heard this, and it became that, but it wasn't like advertised that way.
Do you recall at this rumor panel in TecoshaCon addressing the issue of you being homophobic?
Yes, sir. It's outrageous.
And that was, and is that a rumor that has kind of dogged you even after that rumor panel?
Yes, sir.
And is that rumor that you're homophobic, does that hurt your professional reputation?
Well, it certainly doesn't help it.
And if you turn to page 2.
And for the record, I am not remotely homophobic.
Okay. Turn to page 2 of Exhibit 21.
Is he trying to give Jason some help?
Third sentence down in the top paragraph. If you slide over, it reads, Vic also reveals that he encouraged Britt and her friends to attack Kosfu and 4chan about these stories, and that he set up a PayPal account which demanded video proof of Vic being drunk in exchange for $100. That ring a bell?
Yes, sir. I didn't I'm going to clarify, though. You see, this is somebody's words, not mine. I didn't encourage someone to attack anybody.
Okay.
I will tell you what happened, if I may, Sean.
Sure.
There were all these rumors. I saw Vic falling down drunk, stumbling around a convention. Well, there are dozens of cameras rolling at all times. I've never been stumbling drunk in my life, ever on the planet Earth. And these rumors, made up by fans just looking to get attention, were more and more frustrating. And so I told one of my friends, why don't we set up a PayPal, and anyone who can provide video evidence of me stumbling around drunk at a convention, I'll give them $100.
Okay.
Suffice to say, nobody ever claimed it because it never happened.
All right. And during this rumor panel, did you encourage people to go on sites and tell everybody that they were wrong about you?
I encouraged people that were my friends and supporters to be supportive.
And have you had, between the TecoshaCon panel and the January 19th discussion you had with the Risen Bull Rangers, have you ever done that in between in the last 9 years?
Not that I recall. Actually, I kind of got used to it after a while. You know, the first time it happened, I tried to address it, and then I just kind of came to terms with the fact that there are people out there who are going to say what they want to say from the anonymity and safety of their laptops at home, and I can't do anything about it. So I just stopped addressing it.
And what would you say are the rumors that have kind of persisted?
Well, this is one of the biggest ones, that I'm homophobic. Although there's not 1 ounce of evidence. No, I would challenge anyone to provide any public comment or attitude or anything that ever proves that I've been rude or cruel or hateful or mean or ever made a homophobic remark. I have several friends that are gay. There are many friends of mine that worked on my Star Trek production who are gay. I attended a transsexual friend's wedding.
Let me show you what we're going to mark as Exhibit 14.
When you say you have a gay friend, it means you're homophobic. How could you count? I have all gay friends, only gays.
Do you recognize Exhibit 14 is the tweet you sent out on January 20th, 2019.
Yes, sir. This was the first response that I made 4 days after the, based on the date, 4 days after the social media thing began.
And this is the tweet that you put out after the day after you had the discussion on the Reasonable Rangers website about encouraging people to go out and talk about you in positive light.
I don't remember the dates. Again, I was in quite a distressed place at this point, and I don't remember when. I wasn't going to respond. As I said just a minute ago, I had kind of gotten to the point where, you know what, don't encourage it, don't respond. And so for the first several days, I didn't respond. And then this was the first public response.
Now, you kind of apologize in that letter to people you've made feel uncomfortable. Was there anybody in particular you were thinking, or is it just more of a generic?
No, it was generic. It was the idea of somebody that I might have hugged for a photo that didn't say anything at the time, but of course they went home and posted about how they didn't appreciate it or something, and I apologize to those people for not being sensitive to that.
Now, were there allegations floating around after January 16, 2019 that you were a pedophile?
Well, people have been throwing that word around for,
For what?
well, just for a while.
About you?
Yes.
For how long?
I don't know.
I mean, when's the first time you can recall?
I don't recall. Like I said, there are people out there that see me hugging someone for a photo in front of 300 other people and 25 video cameras. It's purely for the photo, and they decide somehow that I'm a pedophile. There is no evidence of that. There's no proof of it. There are no charges. There are no convictions.
Well, would you agree that you are a pedophile? Also, I'm pausing the video because people told me not to. I don't know why you don't understand. I'm not going to just let the video play because you're here for commentary. Oh, and also because you can't watch it anywhere else.
It's just salacious.
And have any of the defendants, to your knowledge, ever accused you of being a pedophile?
Not to my knowledge.
I'll show you, we're going to mark as Exhibit 15. The second email, Exhibit 15, that is the apology that you wrote, or not the apology, but the letter you wrote to Monica Rial on February 8th, 2019.
Yes, sir.
Right, and you, did you have anybody help you draft this?
I bounced it off a couple friends of mine before I sent it.
And who'd you bounce it off of?
My friend Jeff Johnson.
Anybody else?
Not that I can think of.
At the time you wrote this, you had, it's your testimony that you had no idea that Mrs. Rial had accused you of inviting her to your room, and forcing yourself on her.
I never forced myself on her.
Did you do anything? Did you kiss, make out with, or have any type of sexual interaction with Miss Rial at any point in time?
If I understand correctly, this is from 11 years ago, and I don't have any specific recollection. But what I can tell you is that I have had hundreds of interactions with Monica over the years since, and no indication whatsoever that I ever did anything that upset or offended her.
Has she ever been in your hotel room in the last 8 years?
Sir, we've done dozens of conventions together. We have been friends, and I don't know any specific times, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case.
Right. I'm
Wait,
gonna
what was
object
that
as
question?
non-responsive. Let me see if I can.
Together, upset or offended her.
Has she ever been in your hotel room in the last 8 years?
Sir, we've done dozens of conventions together. We have been friends, and I don't know any specific times, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case.
Right. I'm going to object as non-responsive. Let me see if I can.
I wouldn't be surprised if she were, because we've done many, many, many events together.
As you sit here today, since in the last 8 years, can you identify any time that you recall Mrs. Rial being alone with you in your hotel room?
Is she married now,
Object
Mrs.
as
Rial?
non-responsive.
I'm just saying I believe it's Miss Rial. No, I don't recall any specific events, specific times.
And you don't actually have a specific recollection of her ever being in your room.
Not specifically, no.
Okay. So at the point in time when you wrote this email in February 2019, you were really struggling to figure out why she was upset with you.
Yes, sir.
And she hadn't gone public with that in any way.
Oh, she had alluded to it publicly, but she had not given any specifics, which is why I said I really want to know what it was that, you know. I am embarrassed to say that I honestly don't know. I hope you will share it with me so that I may sincerely apologize. Apparently she wasn't interested in any apology, because the beginning of this, she writes another actress at Funimation and says, "This is what he always does. It's disgusting." I guess she wasn't interested in any kind of sincere interaction.
Object is non-responsive, made to strike. There's no question on the table. Show you what we pre-marked as Exhibit 20. I'll represent to you that what Exhibit 20 is. It's what's called written discovery, and it's an interrogatory where each side gets to ask the other side certain questions, and these are questions that your attorneys asked of Mrs. Rial. And what I want to do is go through some of her answers and get your comment on it. So I want to start on page 5 of Exhibit 20.
Yes, sir.
Interrogatory number 4.
Should I
with
pull
me?
these up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Interrogatory number 4 has a request about some point in time which you grabbed or kissed Mrs. Rial in a hotel room in the mid-2000s. As we sit here right now before reading your response, do you have any recollection of any type of interaction in your hotel room with Ms. Rial where you kissed her?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So if you look at the first bullet point, it says plaintiff grabbed and kissed defendant without defendant's consent on Sunday, November 4th, 2017.
2007.
2007. While plaintiff and defendant were both attending IzumaCon, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Any recollection of that?
No, sir. That was 12 years ago.
Okay. If you turn to page 6. Second bullet point on page 6. Plaintiff continued in this fashion for several minutes, despite defendant's...
Several minutes. What was Miss Rial doing at this
Let me
time?
get the question out.
Sorry, I apologize.
Sure.
I apologize. This is the first I read this. I'm sorry. I apologize.
So I'm going to start over with the bullet point. Plaintiff continued in this fashion for several minutes, despite defendant's fear and shock, until Mr. Dolan knocked on plaintiff's hotel door. Plaintiff left defendant on the bed and hurriedly answered the door. Mr. Dolan inquired whether defendant was okay, clearly noticing stress. Defendant, however, was too shocked and afraid to admit what had occurred. And you dispute that, right?
I don't recall that at all.
Okay. The third bullet point, following dinner, plaintiff forced defendant to speak with plaintiff's longtime fiancee on the telephone, and plaintiff spoke with his fiancee as if nothing happened. Recall that?
No, sir.
And your fiancee at the time would have been Mrs. Speck.
Michelle Specht.
Now, prior to today, have you seen that description from Ms. Rial in any?
I'm sorry, say that again, sir.
Prior to today, have you seen or heard that description from Ms. Rial online or anywhere?
I know of the story that she posted online back when she originally posted it, but there are more details here than there were in her original story. Like, I don't believe on the online story she didn't say anything about when or where. She didn't say anything about Stan Dallin. She didn't say anything about putting her on the phone. By the way, I just don't even understand a lot of it, so.
Have you ever grabbed Miss Rial's hair and pulled it back and whispered into her ears before?
Whispered what?
I don't know.
Neither do I.
I'm not asking for what you whispered. I'm asking.
Well, you asked if I did. I don't recall whispering anything.
Do you ever recall grabbing her by the back of the hair and pulling her hair?
I recall doing that not in a violent or hurtful way, but in a playful way. Miss Rial used to be a hairdresser. She's always kind of changing her hairstyles over the years and coloring cool colors, and I always used to comment on how much I loved her hair or her new hairstyle. It's really disingenuous to use the term pulling hair, too, because it just has a connotation of being somehow violent, and it was never that.
But you did put your hands on her and pull her hair.
Yes, sir.
And you've done that more than once.
I did not pull her hair. And again, we were friends. It was all in casual interaction. And I was never, if she had ever told me, please don't do that again, I wouldn't have ever done it again.
And is that something you've done with other women in the past, where you pull their hair just playfully as part of just who you are?
Objection form.
I would definitely say it has probably happened before in playful interaction with people, but not very often.
I'm sure we're going to mark as Exhibit 16. Exhibit 16, a true and correct copy of a tweet that you sent out on February 13th, 2019.
Yes, sir.
If you look at the third paragraph, talks about your colleagues and that there was animosity that you didn't know existed. Who are you referencing there? Who are your colleagues?
I'm referencing any of the voice actors who not only posted, but those who liked or supported the people that did. People that for the last 15 years of my work at Funimation have seen me in the hallways and even worked with me in productions and been nothing but friendly and kind and jovial, and I never had any idea that there was any animosity.
Anybody you can specifically identify?
Well, I'm sure you can find them by who posted, who liked the tweets.
But nobody, as we sit here today, off the top of your head.
Well, I'm certain I was referring to Monica, probably Jamie, and I know that Chris Sabat, Sean Schimmel, and
Can't rape Sabbath if he doesn't have hair. Huh?
a few other voice actors liked and commented on some of this, and I was quite dumbfounded when I found out. I'm like, oh my goodness! Like I cast this guy in my show, and he was all friendly and and jovial and best buddies, and now he's online joining in on this. It was surprising.
Was it just a total shock to you that these people were coming out that have known you for all these years and
Yes, sir.
you just don't know why they would do that?
Yes, sir.
Did you seek the help of a counselor at any time on or?
Objection, privileged. I'll answer.
Well, why is it privileged? I'm asking him what the counselor talked about.
That's true. That's true. Fair enough. Fair enough. You can answer yes or no.
Have you
Sure.
sought the help of a counselor prior to February 13th, but with regard to this whole issue?
I don't remember the date specifically, but I was in a great deal of distress and needed to talk to somebody, and I started seeing a counselor.
So February 13th, kind of the last paragraph, you talk about you don't want anyone to be hateful to anybody else. Why did you make that statement? Were you aware of something that was going on?
Well, because I knew that there was a lot of what's the word?
Vitriol.
Friction. You know what I mean? There was a lot of growing friction. It was just building, and I didn't want any of that. I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't start any of it. I was living my life, and suddenly, out of nowhere, this stuff starts. I merely responded to it.
And have you posted that type of statement anywhere else since then?
I have said that statement several times in events that I've attended since this publicly, and I'm quite certain there are many videos online of me encouraging people to be kind and positive and be known for being a purveyor of good as opposed to negativity.
What is it that Jamie Markey has done to defame you?
Wow. Apart from mischaracterizing a very casual, brief interaction in public and the lobby at Funimation, she publicly posted that and then went on to say that she wanted my head on a stake and wanted my balls in a sling, and has posted many, many extremely vitriolic comments.
And how is that defamatory?
Because she's a voice actress in my industry, and people will tend to give her more credence because they think, oh, well, she knows him. She must, her words must carry more weight than some fan, some miscellaneous fan out there.
So, what was it exactly that she mischaracterized? Or took out of context?
She mischaracterized. My memory of the event with Jamie was that I had come in to record one day at Funimation, and I was in the lobby, and she was there, and she had just changed her hair somehow. She was wearing it differently, or she had cut it somehow, probably as far away as I am from Casey. And she said, "Hey, hon." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I love your hair." And she's like, "I know, I just got it." And I walked around the counter, and I was kind of standing there, kind of flipping it, and like, "Oh my gosh, it's really beautiful. I love it." And I put my hand up in the bottom of it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is great." It was not painful. It was not hurtful. It was not sexual. And it happened at least 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer. And if I may say, I saw Jamie in the lobby at Funimation in January of this year, literally a week to 10 days before this social media thing started. And she's like, "Hey, hon," and went over and hugged her and said hello. She and I have had, as far as I've known, a very casual, friendly relationship for many, many years. And I was astounded by her account online.
And the account online is that you pulled her hair?
And that I pulled her hair, and that I whispered something sexual in her ear, which absolutely is not true. I have not ever had any sexual interest in Jamie.
But Ms. Markey certainly wouldn't be the first woman whose hair you've pulled.
No, we've established that. But I would take issue with the word pulling hair.
Right.
That sounds like something you do in a fight with somebody, and that is not the intent, ever. Nor do I believe they took it that way at the time.
Are there any conventions that you can point to, as you sit here today, that you had a actual contract with that were terminated as a result of this firestorm?
Yes.
All right, which ones are they?
Phoenix Comic-Con. I'm fairly certain I had a contract with a couple of Informa shows, and my understanding is that Informa told my agent that one of their sponsors put pressure on them to cancel me. I do not know for a fact, but one of their sponsors, big sponsors, is Funimation. So, you know, it would seem possible to me that Funimation put pressure on Informa to drop me from the shows that I was scheduled for. That would be MegaCon, Fan Expo, Toronto, Dallas Comic-Con. I think those are the three that come to mind.
All right, but no one's ever told you that it was something that Funimation did that caused you
No
to
one
lose
used the word Funimation, no.
that? Did they
I might look into it a little further, though.
All right. Did any of those, in this conversation, did anyone tell you that it was anything that the three individual defendants said or did that caused you to lose those cons?
Kamea-Con did.
But we've established you got to go to Kamea-Con, right?
Only after a great deal of back and forth. I was originally canceled, even though I had a contract, because of pressure put on by them and threats. I have also been told, again, I don't know specifics, not yet anyway, that there are other events that the defendants have contacted and encouraged not to have me, or said they weren't going to come and they were going to try to get their other voice actor friends not to come if I was there.
And who told you that?
I don't recall at the time. I don't recall right now.
Do you know what cons that they allegedly, the individual defendants allegedly called?
Not as I sit here today, sir.
Do you have any written evidence, emails, text messages?
Not yet.
When did you first start doing voice work for anime films?
If memory serves, maybe 2000, maybe 2000, 2001. I started in Houston with ADV Films. And then sometime a few years after that, which is, by the way, where Monica began. That's how I knew her. And then a few years after that, I met people from Funimation who encouraged me to asked me if I wanted to play a role in certain things they were doing, and that's how I ended up starting to work at Funimation.
And when would you say your reputation in the voice acting community was at its peak?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I'm not. It's not for me to say when it's at a peak. I don't know.
Well, you don't kind of intuitively know when you're getting invited to more cons and getting asked to do more shows.
There's an ebb and flow to it all.
When did you first start doing the Brawly voice for Dragon Ball Z?
About 15 years ago.
Is that the most famous character that you've done?
No, sir.
What's the most famous character?
Probably Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist.
When was the last Full Metal Alchemist? Release?
I'm sorry. Full Metal ended, roughly 10 years ago.
And you've also done voice characters on video games, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What video games?
Oh, wow. Soul Calibur, Persona, Sonic, Final Fantasy, a large number. I kind of just don't even keep track.
When you go to these cons, do you usually do panels by yourself, or are you with people?
Both.
Is it unusual for you to do a panel by yourself?
No. But it's also not unusual to do them with others.
And what about most recently when you were in Ireland? Did you panel by yourself or with others?
I did panels by myself. Often I'll do a panel on a particular show, and if there are other voice actors there that were part of that show, you'll do a Full Metal panel with me or Caitlin and Aaron, or if there are multiple people that are at the convention who are in that show, or if it's a Dragon Ball panel, we would do a panel if there are multiple voice actors there from Dragon Ball.
How many cons have you done in 2019?
9 thus far.
Do you typically average between 30 and 40 a year?
No, I think I average closer to 20 or 30. I had a pretty large number lined up for this year. I can only assume because of the Broly movie. He's a pretty popular Dragon Ball character, and I've played him in all the anime and video games, Dragon Ball video games, for 15 years. So it was kind of exciting when they came out with a new movie that he was the main character of. And it's apparently done very, very well.
Would you agree with me that if you read the articles that were being written about you that are reflected in exhibits 1 through 8, and you were a convention owner around a convention, that would give you pause to invite you to conventions?
Some yes, some no. I've spoken to convention organizers who come down on both sides of it.
Right, so there's some conventions out there that aren't concerned at all about the allegations against you.
There's some.
All right, and then there's others that are.
Certainly. And if I may say, I hope this is okay, but I mean, a convention organizer may be on the fence based on rumor and social media, but if a voice actress in the industry or a voice actor in the industry calls up and puts pressure, or an animation company like Funimation or Rooster Teeth calls up and puts pressure on a convention, they can certainly sway the conventions having me.
All right, but as you sit here today, you don't know of any instances where Funimation or Rooster Teeth put pressure on a convention not to hire you or allow you to come, do you?
Not yet.
All right. And other than KamehaCon, are you aware of any other conventions that any of the individual defendants reached out to that chose not to let you come or canceled a contract with you?
Sean, I'm thinking now there was one. and I can't remember the name. Can I have a second?
Sure.
I'm sorry, what was that question? People bother me in the chat. By bothering me, it's asking me questions.
You know, Sean, I'm thinking.
That chose not, and other than Kamehacon, are you aware of any other conventions that any of the individual defendants reached out to that chose not to let you come or cancel the contract with you?
Raleigh SuperCon.
You know, Sean, I'm thinking now there was one, and I can't remember the name. Can I have a second?
Sure.
No, I don't yet have any specific information to that effect.
Are you familiar with a website called PrettyUglyLiar.net?
I've heard of it.
Have you ever gone on and looked at it?
No, sir.
Why not? What have you? Well, let me strike that. What have you heard about it?
I'm sorry?
What have you heard about it?
I have heard that it's just a repository for garbage.
About who?
Anybody. You. I mean, anybody. No one. Anybody. Anything salacious, anything people desperate to know about other people might want to read.
Right, I'm going to show you what we're going to mark as Exhibit 25. I'll represent to you that Exhibit 25 represents a Google Docs repository that's associated with PrettyUglyLittleLiar.net. This particular Google Doc was pulled on April 25th, 2019, and it goes through a series of allegations and links associated with people who have made statements about you over the years, but you've never read it, correct? Never been through Pretty Ugly Little Liars to see what was being said about you?
No, sir.
When's the first time you can recall allegations of sexual harassment being raised against you in your career as a voice actor?
Can I ask you to define sexual harassment?
The unwanted touching.
So any unwanted contact is harassment.
Sexual harassment, yeah.
Sexual harassment.
Sure.
I don't agree with your definition personally.
Okay. No,
But
then give me your definition of sexual harassment.
forcing somebody to engage in sexual related behavior against their will.
Okay, so you have to use some type of physical force to harass them under your definition, right?
Or verbal.
Okay. And when's the first time that you were has there been any allegations made against you for verbal or physical sexual harassment?
Well, for the longest time, my only recollection of the rumors and stories online were that I would hug fans that didn't want to be hugged, or I would be too close to a fan that didn't appreciate it. Of course, they didn't say anything at the time, but they mentioned it later. Those were the first instances I ever heard of.
And when was that? Like roughly?
I don't remember.
Would you agree with me that this issue of you kissing young girls and that being kind of creepy has been around for a while?
No, sir.
Something that just started?
No, I wouldn't agree that it was kind of creepy, that part of your sentence.
All right, how about we do it this way? Would you agree with me that people online have commented that it's creepy that you kiss young girls.
Sure.
And that's been around for a while.
Yes, sir.
And that's certainly impacted your personal reputation, hasn't it?
Not much. I mean, I was doing pretty well in the industry, as you pointed out yourself at the beginning of the deposition. I've done hundreds of characters. I'm just saying, I've been a voice actor at Funimation and been hired repeatedly for 15 years. And
it all started on April 16th, 2019, when that tweet went out.
April?
I'm sorry, January 2016.
No. Like I said, my belief is that date was chosen to piggyback on the popularity of the Broly movie. There has been a recurring theme here. Over the years, anytime I am announced as part of a big new show or playing a role, there are always a handful of people that want to jump on that publicity and get some attention for themselves.
And by getting
Hey, JT Master. Yeah, I do. I do find every chance I can to go on a rant and insult people. And I don't care that it's getting old. I don't care at all. This is my show. And the fact that this is the only place that you can see the depos, I'm sorry, but you'll just have to fucking deal with it.
People that want to jump on that publicity and get some attention for themselves.
and by get attention from yourselves, you mean people post anonymously that you harass people or do inappropriate things?
Yes.
And so they want to get attention for themselves through
Yes.
their anonymous avatar, I guess?
Yes. For the same reason they don't want to be listed right now. Because they want the attention, they want people to click on, oh, I liked your post, and oh, look how many people liked my post. But they don't, they certainly don't want the accountability. And whenever any supporters have been pressed for any evidence or substance, well, a friend told me that they heard from a friend who saw a friend who said that they heard at a convention 4 years ago, etc., etc.
And so the people that have come out and actively accuse you of things, you've sued.
I'm sorry?
The people that have come out with evidence and said, this is my testimony and this is what happened, you've sued them.
What evidence would that be?
Objection non-responsive. Isn't it true that well, let me back it up. Your complaint is that people don't offer evidence, right? They just say things anonymously. Fair?
Some people.
All right. And some people actually come out, use their name, and make statements about things that you've done that they think are inappropriate, right?
Yes.
And you've sued at least two of them, two women that allege that you did inappropriate things to them, correct?
Yes.
All right. You haven't sued any of the magazines or online articles that wrote articles using all these anonymous names, have you?
Not yet.
You're planning on doing that?
Possibly.
You would agree with me that if you don't sue those magazines, your reputation is still going to be damaged because you'll never...
Oh, I would say my reputation has been irreparably damaged.
And because of those articles, correct?
No, sir, because of everything. All of it. It's a cumulative thing. Didn't you use, like the term you used? Death by 1,000 cuts,
I'll show you what we're going to mark as Exhibit 18. Who is Alyssa Flutie, does work?
I mentioned her earlier.
Right.
She is one of the moderators for the fan club for the Risen Bull Rangers.
Do you know who drafted this statement?
No, I've never seen it. I mean, it says at the top, hello, my name is Alyssa Flutie, so I can only assume that Alyssa drafted it.
But you didn't have any role in drafting.
No, sir.
The first time you've seen it, it handed to you today.
Yes, sir.
Do you know if there are any other character statements for you?
I have been told that there has been a website accumulating people's positive accounts of interactions and how I've helped them through difficult times with encouraging words and support. You might be very surprised. There are a lot of them. People that have written me over the years.
Are there any, is there a repository of statements from women that have been alone with you in your room expressing positive support for that interaction?
I'm not aware of them.
Did you ever text with Chris Latosh of Kamea
We talked about this, didn't we? I think I told you that I did not text with him at all until after he contacted me 3 months after canceling me, and decided to re-invite me, and then received pressure from Monica, Chris Sabat, others I'm sure, and started going back and forth. I involved my attorney because we had a contract, and I'm sure there were a few interactions by text.
Is there a Houston couple, I don't know their full names, that you're good friends with? That ring a bell?
I'm afraid you'll have to be more specific. I lived in Houston 20 years. I have a lot of friends.
All right. How about this? Is there a Houston couple that helps hire prostitutes and helps you pick them out and send them to you? Does that ring a bell?
There is a friend of mine who told me of a site, which is how I found about the one time that I told you that I tried it.
Right, but have you ever, as any friends or anybody, assisted you in terms of actually hiring a prostitute and sending them to your room?
No, sir.
What was Star Trek Continues?
It was a fan-made web series about that picked up where the original Star Trek ended and finished the original 5-year mission of the Enterprise from the original series.
And how many series did it? How many episodes were there?
We made 11.
Is that something you did, like a GoFundMe or some type of Kickstarter?
As a matter of fact, I funded the first episode myself, and then after we made an episode, basically as a proof of concept, myself and another gentleman funded the first episode. And then once we had the first episode and we put it online, people really enjoyed it. We began crowdfunding to make further episodes.
And you ultimately made 11 total?
Yes, sir.
And were you paid by any studio for that?
I'm sorry?
Were you paid by any studio?
No,
for that?
absolutely not. In fact, we were not allowed to this day. We've not sold or made any profit from Star Trek Continues because it's a licensed property. We made it as a fan series just to celebrate Star Trek.
Right. Do you have any films coming out this year?
I have been contacted by a couple of people interested in having me do something, but nothing has been done yet, so I don't know when it would be shot, so I certainly don't know when it would be coming out.
Or what about any anime films that are in the can that'll be released this year? Rohan for JoJo?
Yeah, I was going to say there are a couple of I believe that's already all been released, but there are a couple of recurring characters that I played that I don't think they have been released yet, but they've already been recorded.
All right, let's take a little break and talk to everybody. I think I'm ready to pass the witness.
生きるリバサイガスの吹き溜まりはまっちまったやつほど口が悪いここじゃ成功ってやつ雲隠れ俺たちの未来と空の色はグレーいつも吹き変わる地につながれ全速で蔓延してきたのかね神様とつけた最低変なら書き残すこの目しか見れない経験のな名前だけこの決意に甘えはねえ